When we spoke about the book of Daniel, we have seen the words of prophet Amos from his book chapter 3 verse 7. Surely God does not do anything unless he reveals his plan to his servants the prophets are true. We have started from the time of the prophet and continued all the way until the end. Now the question is, what is that end? Should we be concerned about it? When will it come? Is it something important for us to know? When you travel in an unknown country, it's good to have a map or GPS, something that will help with your orientation. Jesus, in his sermon on the Mount of Olives, gave such orientation to his disciples when he spoke about the signs of his second coming. Join us for this program. Because the Gospel of Matthew is patterned after the 5 books of Moses, it also has 5 major speeches. In the last one, recorded in chapter 24 and 25, Jesus speaks about the end times, about the signs of his coming. In Mark 13 we read, as Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." "Do you see all these great buildings?" replied Jesus. "Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." And so we read in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21 about what is going to happen. The disciples said, "Tell us, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the world?" For them, the destruction of the temple means the end of the world. And because they asked this question, Jesus answered it. He doesn't want them to be unprepared. He doesn't want them to catch. He doesn't want to catch them unprepared. And so he gives signs. He gives signs in 4 areas. The first one is in area of social relationships. In James 5, we read about the fact that the resources are unequally distributed. "Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted, moth has eaten your clothes, your gold and silver are corroded. The corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days." The material things are not the most important things in life, but you need them to lead a decent life. Unequal distribution of wealth, it's part of the problem of this world, the divide between the West and the East, between the North and the South. It's part of the problem and tension and revolutionary atmosphere that we have in the world, that people feel they need to throw away the oppression under which they live. In Matthew 24, verse 6, Jesus said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come." And then he adds, "There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." After the social arena comes the natural arena, signs in the nature, famines, earthquakes, and wars. Now, these signs are there telling us that we still live in the old world. The old age is still with us. They are not necessarily a sign that the end is here. Jesus actually said, "See to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come." Very often people look at these happenings and they say, because of this earthquake, because of this war, this must be the end. This must be it. But that's exactly against the words of Jesus. These are generic signs. Wars, earthquakes, famines, they have always been with us throughout history. And then comes the area of political signs. In 1 Thessalonians 5:2 and 3, Paul says, "For you know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape." Now, this text does not mean that we should not be involved in what's going on the local level, in the society around us. It just warns us against unwarranted optimism, thinking that what we do is going to save the planet, is going to usher the kingdom of God. It's the human endeavor that is important on a local level. On the other hand, it's God Himself who will ultimately bring in God's kingdom, not what we do. And then there are other signs in the religious area. In the religious arena, you can see that people look at the law of God and they plainly disregard it. It's going to be worse and worse and public in the last days. But then there is a positive sign which is mentioned in Matthew 24, verse 14. "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." This is a positive sign because the gospel, the good news about God, who He is, how He runs the universe, is something that everybody needs to hear. Something that people need to hear in order to make intelligent choice, to choose on which side they want to stand. What's the purpose of all this? In Matthew 24, verse 6, Jesus said, "Such things must happen, but the end is not yet. You will hear the wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed." Make sure you are not afraid. When these things happen and people don't know, what does it mean? How can we explain that? How does it fit in the overall picture of good and caring God? It's easy to be scared, to be afraid, not knowing what tomorrow will bring. Jesus said, don't be afraid, don't be alarmed. And He adds in verse 44, "So you must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect Him." He told us these things so that we can prepare. We can be ready when He comes. And for that, we need to have a close relationship with Him. We need to get to know Him better so that the events around us are not scary because of who we know. The purpose of this sermon of Jesus was to help us in today's world when things go differently than we would expect. When wars, earthquakes, tsunamis come and people are destroyed, it's easy to think that God doesn't care. But this tells us that God is there, that He wants to bring the end. And if we have the right relationship with Him, we will be on His side once His kingdom is here.